and she has a newspaper, and she's like fanning off his balls. And it's just like a big, you know, some of these babies, sometimes their balls like get pretty big in comparison to how big the baby is. It's pretty funny. And we're like, what are you doing? She's like, I don't know. He looks like he's really hot. It's like a summer day, so she's trying to like fan him off. She's like, I figured this would help.
She went straight to the source.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, were his balls exposed?
Yeah, he was naked.
Yeah,
he's
so
naked. She's
funny.
like fanning off his nuts.
Yeah. It is funny, like body proportions.
I wish I had someone do that for me.
Me too. God,
Fuck, it's
that
getting a
would
little
feel
warm.
amazing.
It's getting a little warm in here.
But yeah,
Andrew, grab that newspaper for me.
yeah, been waiting for you to say that all day.
Oh God.
Hell yeah. But anyway, so we're live. But
Oh,
yeah,
whoops.
it is funny though, like the proportions of sizes, right? Like you got a big old head, torso, and then it's like, damn, you're packing some heat.
Does he look like he's wearing like little rubber bands on his wrist because his like forearms are all fat?
I'll go back and check, but I don't think he's that quite chubby yet.
Yeah. It's
But-
funny because the wrist goes in and the forearm goes back out with just like a big old thing of chub.
Yeah, eventually he'll be able to like put his hands in his pockets without clothes on, you know, because he's just got creases everywhere. But he is getting the nice little double chin going now.
Nice.
So that part's cool.
There
yeah,
you go.
keeps gaining, son. And it was cool that the doctor was like,
Chubby kneecaps.
yeah.
It's like, how do you have chubby kneecaps? It's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's for when they crawl. Like they're all set up.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a little padding.
Yeah.
Didn't realize. That.
Built-in protections. Yeah, the doctor was like, so you guys are just exclusively breastfeeding? It's like, yeah. It's like, wow, okay. Like, that's cool because he's supposed to only gain like 1 ounce per day or whatever, and he's like surpassed that. So I'm like, yeah, shout out to Element. You know, we had Rob Wolf on talking about how that has helped, you know, shown to help the production of breast milk. And yeah, Stephanie's been drinking at least 1 a day.
There you go.
And it's freaking awesome. Yeah.
Kid's getting jacked.
Yeah, he's gaining weight. So I'm like, hell yeah, keep eating, son.
All these bodybuilders that love breast milk are now going to be giving their donors.
Oh, yeah.
Element.
That was,
Donors.
Yeah,
that was a thing for a little bit, right?
that's still a thing.
Really?
Yeah, all they do is got to get your lady that's getting you that breast milk. If you want to increase your production, get some Element in her.
Yeah.
Knock on your neighbor's door. You see that she's pregnant?
Here you go.
Like, hey, can you take this and then in return just give me the excess stuff that your baby can't eat? Because he's not going to be able to eat all of it.
Man, no, I got it.
How are people getting breast milk online? Is that what we decided?
It's probably online.
Yeah. Based on that, like that it was like a documentary on Netflix or something. Like they showed, like they followed somebody who lifts that was trying to buy it or whatever, trying to buy breast milk. And I think they had like Craigslist ads. You can probably somewhere online, but then they had experts saying like, hey, like that's kind of like there's bacteria in that. And, you know, it's not really going to do anything for you other than help you just gain like weight, like not like muscle or anything. Like there's no extra like super protein in there.
Right.
Times are hard. It's COVID. For all my female hustlers out there,
Yeah.
you know, if you got, you know.
Speaking of breast milk, our good doctor friend, Dr. Tony Huge, wants to come back on the podcast.
Hell yeah.
And he said that he has a few like documentaries out. He wanted us to check them out, but I'm not really sure how to watch them. Do you know how to? There's like enhanced 2 and enhanced whatever. I was like, I don't know.
I believe they're on demand, but he did send me a
They're on like History National Geographic.
So there's the National Geographic one.
Is that the one that was mentioned on Rogan?
Yes. Dude, so
he said they're super popular. They're like downloaded more than any other documentary that they have.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
they're really good. And then Casey came up to me like when it aired, and he was just like, "Hey, I saw your boy on National Geographic." I was like, "Whoa!" Like finally it came out. You know, not saying that like this happens all the time to everybody, but like you hear somebody say like, "Oh yeah, I'm working on this project with National Geographic," or you know, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay,
yeah, sure you are.
Yeah, exactly. And then like,
yeah, we know.
like sure, Tony, like they're gonna show steroids on National Geographic, and it's like, oh,
and they did.
My brother knew a guy at Gold's Gym that like went up to my brother. He's so excited one day. He's like, "Yo, bro, I got a show." And my brother's like, "What?" He's like, "You were able to, like, I didn't even," my brother's like, "I didn't even know you were an actor." He goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, I'm on every day." And my brother's like, "Well, how do I find out more about it?" He's like, "I'm on YouTube."
I was gonna say, yeah.
Well,
My brother was like, cool.
My
He's like,
show
my
has
brother didn't know what to say, so he's like, congratulations, it's
Hell
awesome.
yeah. My show has a dedicated website and everything. Go ahead and write this one down. YouTube.com.
/
Yeah. What was it? Oh, so anyway,
I got a show.
watching the National Geographic show on Tony Hughes, you forget things that happened yesterday, let alone like a year or two ago. Watching the show, I'm like, oh yeah. So the lady that conducted the whole like documentary that was also on Joe Rogan was hanging out right here in this podcast room interviewing me, just to see, like, as a side project, to see if they wanted to film here at the gym. And I'm just like, oof, like all the memories came back. I'm like, oh, that's right. Like I did meet and hang out with them. Yeah, her and like the producer.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was wild, but enhanced and then enhanced to the max or whatever. There's a lot of there's a lot of us.
Sounds
in
like
the,
a sequel. It's
yeah,
funny.
there's a lot of us in the second one because that was when that was like right in the middle of Sarmageddon.
Yeah.
So they filmed a lot of stuff here, and I can get you guys a link to watch all of the above.
Yeah, we got to check it out and then have them on the show.
Yeah.
Just people like gaining weight like crazy, pretty much, right?
Yeah, lots of injections. And it's a lot of it when we had Tony Hughes and Canadian Trevor.
Yeah.
Trevor Kuritzen, sorry buddy. When he took a bunch of stuff and he was like, yeah, I gained like 15 pounds overnight or whatever. And everyone's like, well, like that's like a lot of water. Like some of it's water. Like, well, I mean, but how much,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that where they do the DEXA scans and stuff and they can show that they gained a bunch of muscle and stuff. But, then like Lee Priest will come on and be like, oh shit, I can do that too. And, in 2 days, if I just eat a bunch of shit and gain water. So
It is interesting.
It's
There should be
super
like
good,
there should be like an upper limit on how much water you can gain, via like percentage of body weight. I'm sure each person's maybe a tiny bit different there, but like, you could probably only retain so much water, I would assume, unless you were doing something for a really long period of time. I would guess that you could probably retain more and more water over like a longer period of time. But if we're talking about like 48 hours or, a week or two, I could see how you could gain probably 20 pounds in 2 weeks. I don't think gaining 20 pounds in 2 weeks would be hard even without steroids. I think if you just ate like a motherfucker and got after it, I think you could gain. And then, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is some of the volume of what you weigh would be the actual food and would be the actual water. That would be part of it, because you're not going to be emptying that out all the time. So,
And quite a bit of fat. If it was 2 weeks, boy, I could gain 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of it would be fat. There would be quite a bit of water and a little bit of muscle.
That's an interesting question. How long does it take to gain some fat? Does that happen in days? Probably,
Oh yeah.
probably can happen in 2-3 days. You can be fatter. You can definitely hold on to water like immediately. We could do it right now. We could eat a bunch of carbs and drink a bunch of water, and we could all like retain water. But like gaining fat, it probably takes at least a day or 2 or 3.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting.
I don't. It's tough to say because then you still see younger people fairly big, like, so it's like, man, you haven't been on the planet long enough to really, but it's like there they are. So
Right.
That's tough. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? For some reason, I just lost it.
Just kids, like obese children.
Okay.
Like fuck, like if you're X amount overweight, like you've only been around for X amount of years, like shit, you've been on a tear. It's like shit. So
Yeah, maybe they started out
right, that's
kind of overeating at a
Yeah.
really, really young age.
So what I'm saying is like we're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Like we're efficient at getting fatter.
Low quality, high palatable foods. It's like you can get in a lot of calories without trying.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about being less fat, trying to give people some motivation from a different side, like rather than even think about like being skinny or even just trying to think about like losing a bunch of weight, just be less fat. Like just, could you eat a little bit less? Can you cut back a little bit? Can you develop the discipline to put a Ben and Jerry's back in the freezer? Could you, there's a lot of times when you're eating and you're like, I don't really need any more food. But then what do we do usually? We usually finish it off. And if you're already heavy, you can just make the decision to be like, I'll save the rest for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's it takes a lot to be able to do that though.
Takes years.
It takes years. It takes repetition. And I'm actually very serious about that, especially if you come from a place of like, I want to get big, I want to get strong, and you eat everything on your plate, you don't leave anything to put some food back.
Yeah.
It's an ego blow.
Well, and then maybe you just learn to take a little bit less too. Like, I don't, at my house, like my wife will cook up some food, and then we have some food either like in the pan or we put it like on a dish, and then you gather the food up and then you go sit down. We don't always, sometimes we'll bring the food to the table. It kind of just depends on what meal it is. But then, from there you can just kind of determine how much food you put on your plate. Try to fill up that plate with protein. Try to fill up the plate with vegetables. And if there's something else there, try not to have too much of that.
Yeah. I did used to pride myself on how much I could stack my plate though.
Oh yeah.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, everyone would be taking food and I'd just be like,
well, then you're kind of known for being that person too.
Yep.
Like, oh man, he always eats a lot. Like, I don't know. It's a thing. It becomes a thing. Like
It does.
you're the guy that's funny, or you're the person that cheers everybody up or whatever. You have like an identity, and then you play into that.
Yeah, I mean, in a Mexican household, it's really rude to not destroy hella food on your plate. And if you don't, then you actually, like, I've been spanked before because I didn't finish my food.
Oh yeah, no, actually,
You know what I mean? Like,
that's happened to me too.
I honestly, like, I wish I can go back and like get spanked for like, I don't know, not eating the good food. Like instead of like just like eating whatever.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, obviously my views are way different now than when I was a kid. Like, when I was a kid, I just wanted
You didn't
pizza.
eat nutrient-dense enough foods.
Yeah.
Whack.
How many grams of protein today? I don't know, 25. Whack.
There's no vitamin D in that food. Whack.
Yeah.
But I think we're in a really good place now because like.
You mean the three of us?
Oh, for sure, the three of us.
Okay.
Yeah, but not like generationally, because I feel like there's a big.
My mind drifted there for a second. It's like the way he said it. I think
we're in a really good place now.
I was like, got so excited. I was like, really?
Man, we've been working so hard on our relationship.
I'm like, I'm glad he's feeling
so happy that we're here now.
I thought I was the only one that was feeling that energy.
Oh, by the way, where'd you get that hat, or what is that hat? It's pretty dope.
Top secret.
It is.
Mm-hmm. No, it's actually just a hat that we can print on. So
oh, really?
Print on it, yeah.
Dude, yeah. No, I was like, is that like a Lulu hat or something? It's pretty sick.
I think
we're
it's
gonna
just like
print on that.
I think it's just like a flex fit or something. Let me see.
It doesn't just look like a flex fit though.
It's top secret because it's on the top of his head.
Oh, it is just a flex fit. Sick.
Well, don't give out our secrets.
Yeah, flex fit.
You can bleep it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's bleep it. It's up.
We're live. Speaking of, real quick, markbellslingshot.com. Today is Free Shirt Friday.
Oh yeah,
No way.
FSF.
Yep.
Don't go giving him shit.
It's not. It's not up to me. I'm just the messenger. Don't kill me. Yeah. But yeah, I have no idea what the actual. I'll look it up. But yeah, Free Shirt Friday, markbellslingshot.com.
Are we actually live or are we on African time?
Okay. All right.
Please explain Nsima so that way we don't
Let me
get
explain
canceled.
that, yeah, because Mark, he's going to get canceled if I don't explain this.
What? There's white people in Africa too, right?
Yeah, South Africa. There's a lot of them over there. Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay.
The more you know.
Okay. So I was saying we were in a good place, but
now
we're not.
That was a close one, guys.
African
A white
time.
guy, a black guy, and a Mexican guy walk into a podcast room.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? All right, so African time is this, and all my Africans know about this, but I think also Andrew knows about this too because there's apparently Mexican time. But in at like Nigerian parties and functions, like straight up,
Got Andrew pretty good with that one.
Yeah,
straight up.
this is true.
If a function starts at like 5, right, and the flyer says 5, everything says be here at 5. Everyone gets there at like 7:30, like clockwork. It's real. This isn't a joke. It's like everyone will get there at 7. The whole thing will actually start at 7, and people will just arrive then. And if you arrive before that, like that just wasn't smart.
Maybe
Like,
you're
you
part
should
of
have read the flyer.
Maybe you're part of the setup or something, helping with the party or something.
Yeah. You're usually someone that's just helping there, put up chairs, put up tables, but no one gets there at time. This includes weddings and wedding parties. So that's real shit. Like that is real. African time is real. I bet you I could Google it right now, and Urban Dictionary is gonna give me something. Yeah. But
I think it
Turns
was.
out there are some differences between all of us. Huh?
Yeah, I think it was.
Let's not point them out.
It was George Lopez. He was just like, Mexicans just think everything is 15 minutes away. Like, it doesn't matter what time, how far the distance is. Like, yeah, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Like, that's just what it is. And if I tell you I'm 15 minutes away, that means I just left. There's no way.
It should be noted that almost every African on both leaving and the receiving end does this. So if one does actually arrive on American time, don't be surprised if a party is still getting set up, a person is still getting ready, etc., etc. Guests arrive on African party at 9 p.m. when the invite said 6:30.
You got to remember this for his wedding.
Wedding invite says, note, there will be no African time at this ceremony. It will start promptly. Like, weddings actually put that on the flyers, that there won't be African time, that will actually start on time.
That's amazing.
So funny.
It's real. Like, I'm not joking. So that is African time.
If it's white, like,
How do you know when to get there? You just add 90 minutes or 2 hours?
Just add about 90 minutes to 2 hours. Yeah.
but
yeah.
if it's widely accepted, like well known, then that's fine, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just
You're not late.
You're not late. You came on time, on African time.
Pretty sick because you could show up an hour late and be early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Smokey,
fuck,
if I'm
man.
ever late, just
Yeah.
I confused it with African time.
Now we get it. Now we see.
Oh man.
Anyway, today's topic, we're talking about how competition for a lot of us has set us straight and has set us to have a cascade of disciplines that descends downward from, hey, I'm going to compete, March 24th. And because you know you're going to compete March 24th, and you lay out how many weeks that is, and you start to really prep for it. You start to prepare for it, whether it's powerlifting, bodybuilding, jiu-jitsu, doesn't matter really what it is. You start to prep for it, and you're like, this is the competition. And, what do we say? Like, I'm going to take the training like more seriously. You guys are going to see me around a lot more because I got this competition in March or April or whatever it is. And so that, you really start to up the production of you training. You're really you're working really hard. And we're going to talk a little bit more today about how and why you should just be kind of working hard all the time. Sort of kind of goes along with the saying of, if you stay ready, then you don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
But then how do we do different versions of that? Because it's not realistic to be, 5% body fat unless you're gifted with having some people have a body that kind of stays in a certain leanness most of the time. But for the most part, most people will diet down to be 5% body fat. Mm-hmm. And then what? And then what happens? Then they're 10% body fat. Then they gain 20 pounds of body fat after the competition or after whatever it is that they were doing. And so it's hard to stay on point when you don't have a really specific goal. The more specific the goal, the easier it is to stay on point with your training, because you're like, I need this training. I need this training is the language that we use. Because I have this competition on this day, I'm trying to squat 800 pounds, and I physically would not be able to go to this contest and squat 800 pounds without training frequently for it, without being very serious about training. And so when a competition's lined up, we're all fired up. We're all set. We're ready to go. We got everything all dialed in. Now, in now times, we have the coronavirus is around, and a lot of competitions are shut down. And so how do you stay on point? Why would you stay on point? And I have a bunch of suggestions. I think Nsima does too, and we'll review those today.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really excited about this topic just because, I saw it a lot when I was doing bodybuilding. When guys would compete, they're like, okay, cool, competition's coming up, they get ready, they compete. But now the off season is potentially going to be a year. And this was obviously before Corona, and there were more competitions. And in that year, like, some guys would be too scared of gaining body fat, so they would like hold on to their leanness until they were getting ready for another competition, and then they'd look the same on stage, right? And then some guys would just they'd be lackadaisical in their training for a while until they were like 20 weeks out from competition. Okay, now I'm gonna bump up and train super hard, and they look the same on stage again. It's like you're not really doing much. And the same with powerlifting, right? You're training. You see a competition that's 16 weeks out. Okay, let's bump up the training. Let's start training hard. And then you don't really have really great PRs because you weren't the whole time, you weren't putting in the work you needed to do to really beat those old PRs or be competitive. And then jiu-jitsu, it's like the same thing. I'm going to train 4 times a week now because I have a competition schedule. But why weren't you training 4 times a week before? Why weren't you doing that?
Or just even being consistent with training 3 times a week. Like, why were you only training once, and then once, and then 4 times, and then once and 4 times? You keep going back and forth between that. When you're in competition, the 4 times happens all the time, and when you're not in competition, you're only there once a week. And then you're probably running into a lot of injuries. You're probably also really having trouble making just steady progress. And if you could make it there 3 times a week, that's why a lot of the stuff that we share on the Power Project, a lot of stuff that we share, we try to give you guys stuff that's really palatable, stuff that you can actually implement into your day. You know, the 10-minute walk is something that we talk about all the time, but you can 10-minute walk anything. You can apply this to stretching, like I have been at night, following the Natty Professor's stretching recommendations. But just by simply stretching for 10 minutes, you know, you could read for 10. You can do any of this stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be 10 minutes, but you dedicate a time. The AMRAP mentality, kind of via Jason Klippa, who's talked about that before. He would set a watch for these workouts, and then he was like, "I'm going to set a watch for my life. You know, I'm going to set 15. I'm going to do this for 15 minutes." Grabs his phone, he sits there, and he literally will do that. I mean, he's a nutcase, but but he's holding it down pretty good over there. You know, he's a very successful person, and so we can do this with anything. But if we're implementing bits of consistency all the time, it's going to be way easier to be really, really good at something. I think one of the number one places to start when we start to think about stuff like this is you want to have a little bit of a mind shift. If you are somebody that currently competes and you're currently the guy that gets really fired up and excited about competition, but when there's not a competition around, you don't have the same motivation, then I think we just need to work on shifting the mind. And an example of this would be, let's say that you're prepping for a meet and you get injured. That's a great example of shifting your mind. One option is to be super sad and super upset about the injury that you have, and how this always happens to you, and you can play the victim thing, and you could be out of the gym for a few weeks or months and really get really down. People can get really depressed when they get hurt. So it's good to check in with your buddies that get hurt. You should take it a little bit more seriously. I remember when I was wrestling, anytime somebody got seriously injured, like if they had to go to the hospital, which happened a lot, you would call them up because you're like, it's not so much you just for mental purposes, you want to kind of check in on them and make sure they can recover from it. But it's demoralizing. You get injured. 1 minute you were moving around 400 pounds, 500 pounds, and you thought you were a stud. You felt invincible. And now you can't even get up and down a flight of stairs without having tons of pain or going down sideways and holding onto the railing. You're just like, fuck, man, I really screwed up. Shifting your mind to some different things. What can you do? Well, you could probably still bench press. You know, maybe you can work on some bench press, or maybe it's a time period to work on your physique. Like maybe it's a time to work on a transformation. You know, maybe because this is what happened to me when I fell with 1,085. I was like, I don't know what will happen with my powerlifting career. That's pretty vicious injury. I was messed up for a pretty long time. I was messed up for about 3 months. And I was like, I'm 330 pounds. I could very easily be under 300. So let me work on that. So shifting your mind to something different to be competitive with. But ultimately, I think if you're in competition with yourself, then you don't have to ever really worry too much about going in once a week versus going in 4 times a week. I think that you're always going to show up if you're in constant competition with yourself. You're just trying to get a little bit better every day and recognize that if you do that 1 and 4 and 1 and 4 back and forth, it's just going to take you a lot longer. I'm not saying you can't be successful that way. It's just going to take you a lot longer to be successful. So chip away, even if it's twice a week and you do it for a long time and you can make 3 times a week here and there, I think that'll be way more productive than getting all fired up and going 4 times a week for 3 months in a row.
Yeah, you know, I think it's interesting because there was an episode where we talked about, like, to get the ball rolling, sometimes it is good to sign up for a powerlifting meet or sign up for a bodybuilding show so you can get things moving. So if you're in that boat, and you want to do that, that's good. You should do that. If maybe it's your first competition or something. But after that, if you get that fire to compete, you have to, like Mark just mentioned, you have to first off learn how to shift and figure out some different goals outside of competition that'll keep you going. But I think even be under shift, like figuring out those smaller goals of things that you can do in training, you just gotta kind of learn how to just like the whole thing, like training, like going into the gym and working on those movements and enjoy that aspect of things. Because if you enjoy it, like I enjoy training in jiu-jitsu, I enjoy training in the gym. If you enjoy it, there's always going to be the ease of finding out something to improve on, even if it's a minuscule thing, like figuring out how to like get better at pull-ups, right? So like when we were in quarantine, some of us only had a pull-up bar and the ground for some push-ups, right? So getting fired up to do that, because increasing your back strength might actually help you out help you out in terms of getting stronger, right?
Yeah, I know I'm definitely guilty of, I guess, not loving the process, because if I don't have a shoot scheduled or anything, it's like I can go kind of hard today. Like, there's just, you leave that room for making up the excuse of not giving 100% every day.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I know for myself, it's just falling in love with that process. I love like the end result, of course, yeah, that is great. But if you have been there, once that's over, you're kind of like, oh man, it was cool, putting in all that work, 4 a.m. workouts or whatever it may be. And it's just weird, like, not that I don't appreciate it, but like not appreciating it in the moment. I think like I said, for me and for many others, that's where some of that, like, the off-season woes come in. It's just like, well, I'm not training for anything right now, so I'm just gonna go work out, right? Like the difference between training and working out. Like, I'm just gonna go work out, and you kind of scrolling on your phone or just like, hey, Nsima, what's up? Let's talk and not work out. Like that's tough. That's a tough spot to be in.
Maybe treat some of it like you're a little kid. I know you're pretty good at pull-ups, so you can go through some of the exercise, and if you're not feeling it at the moment, and you did 3 sets of 6 of pull-ups, like what would a little kid do? A little kid would be like, let me see how many I can do, and they would just do as many as they can, so that's going to be hard. Like if you're not really feeling it, it's going to be kind of tough. And you could even drop down right from the pull-ups right into push-ups and see how many you can do of those. Once you do that, once you make the action towards that, you're going to be fucking fired up.
Oh, yeah.
Especially once you get to like rep number 7, you're like, I think I could do 10. You get to 10, you're like, I think I could do 12. And you surprise yourself and you get like 13 reps or something. You drop down, bang out some push-ups. Maybe you get a little bit further along on your push-ups. Now you're like really like, you're euphoric at that point. And how long did that take you to get there? Maybe 30 seconds, maybe 60 at the most. Like it didn't take you very long. You went from 0 to 100 real quick, right?
Yeah, I think like a young Andrew, like the kid in me would definitely, like back in the day, would have like imagined this whole scenario where I'm at a pull-up competition in front of hella people and like people screaming. It's like, okay, that's a silly thought, but yeah, a kid would do that, and that would actually have gotten me to.
A kid playing with a baseball in the front yard or football, bottom of the ninth, and they throw the ball up to themselves and they whack the ball. It's a home run, like just try to think of like
teams down by 2 points with 2 seconds left, trying to make the last game-winning shot. 3, 2. Oh, he was fouled when you miss, you make an excuse.
make some weird challenge, you're pushing 80-pound dumbbells for the day on some bench press and just say, fuck it, man, I'm going to roll the dice and see if I can move those hundreds today. And maybe you only get like 2 or 3 reps, but it's a lot of times you need a challenge to really elicit the response that we're looking for here, and it can help a lot. Help shift your mind.
Yeah, I was thinking about something, and I think it's again a lot of people do have access to gyms now, which is great, but some people still don't. And I think it's like we were just saying, it's a good idea to figure out what you can do that might actually give you some progress in terms of like your bigger goal, whether it's powerlifting or bodybuilding. And it's funny because I told you guys I started longboarding like again a long time ago. I used to longboard as a teenager, but I wasn't really that good at it. But I bought one last year, right? And I've been doing it quite a bit. And the funny thing I noticed is that initially I was really crappy and falling off of it all the time, but I've gotten pretty decent now. And the funny thing is that by getting better at longboarding, my jiu-jitsu's improved because of my single leg balance. Like I'm doing a lot of weird shit on the mat now where I'm like standing on one leg and passing somebody's guard. And I'm just like, oh shit. Like I'm staying on this leg and I'm not wiggling around because of long
Wax on, wax off, right?
right? And it's gotten me like
the fence.
Exactly. And like I think of like, okay, if a powerlifter, maybe they don't have gym access, but maybe they're like, I want to like maybe just increase my endurance a little bit by doing some run walks. And then they go back into the gym later on and they're like, whoa, I can do this without gassing out. My workouts feel better, my recovery is better just because you got a little bit better at running. Right? That's a pretty big deal. Something that's totally outside of your sport can drastically improve your performance.
Yeah.
You increased your work capacity, and now you can do more work in less time, and you can be bigger and stronger with that.
I was just gonna say that like I've been using some footage from your YouTube channel for jiu-jitsu. You kind of wreck people sometimes, dude. There was one I don't know what it's
not
called,
very
but
nice.
like you grab them and
He
then
acts
like you
nice when he's
throw
here.
them over, and I'm like, no wonder why you can't find anybody to roll with. Jesus.
No, everybody does roll with me. Like no one says no.
Yeah, I'm joking, but you know what I mean. Like I was like, oh, poor guy. Like he's over here just trying to get in a good roll, and then Nsima just fucking threw him right on his head.
Oh,
You probably
man.
play nice with most people that are like softer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Every once in a while.
I really do.
Yeah.
Like depending on the opponent, like
Right.
I'll gauge like how
Yeah,
much.
if someone's a motherfucker, then you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But like, no one that I train with is like unnecessarily rough or whatever, unless they're a white belt. And white belts, they just try to use too much energy, and like with those guys, you just kind of just slowly suffocate them.
Yeah.
In the
It's
nicest
probably
way
not a good
possible.
idea to try to wreck them either, because you might hurt yourself in the process, right? Like
Exactly.
you might be like, fuck this guy, and then you go to do something and it hurts them and hurts you. And sometimes some people are so dumb, they're like immune to pain too.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I just totally killed that guy. I didn't care for some reason.
Yeah, but it's not even a white belt's fault because they don't know what to do, so they're
Yeah.
trying to do everything. And
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a white belt, I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't think I was, but like, there's this guy Jack. He's like, you had a little bit of white belt rage when you just try things and you don't know when you're using your strength. It happens.
Yeah, there's no way to hide the fact that you're completely amateur and new to the whole thing. You're green. Like there's just no, you can't, you can't hide it. It's like, it's very obvious. We saw that a lot with pro wrestling too. People would just kind of have happy feet and have a lot of unnecessary movement. You see that a lot in boxing too. Like when someone's like trying to box, they bounce around a lot and it doesn't look like a boxer. A boxer isn't really like bouncing around for no reason. They have footwork that is enhancing their movement, enhancing angles and things like that. But someone who's new just looks like they're hopping up and down on both feet and kind of moving around kind of silly. And you're like, what the hell is that?
Exactly.
But shifting your mind and shifting, your focus into doing some other stuff, I think is really valuable. So you don't have competition at the moment. Why not see like what you could do for a set of 10 or a set of 20 or what you can do with like something crazy like German volume training, do like 10 sets of 10 on something. Can you squat 225 for 10 sets of 10 with 45 seconds rest in between? It's like, that doesn't really sound that hard. But once you get in the middle of it, once you get 50 reps in, now you're second guessing like why you tried that in the first place. But things like that can be not only fun, but as Nsima pointed out, it could be training something different. You could be training your conditioning levels. And when you go back to doing your heavier stuff, you're going to be able to handle more work and more volume. And that's all that training is. And that's all that strength training is. It's just building up resilience, building up the ability to accept the input that you put into your body. Otherwise, you're doing stuff that you're not quite ready for. And that's how we get hurt. And that's how we have setbacks. And that's how you stay stagnant.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, outside of having that goal of competing, you need to set up, especially like right now, since in a majority of these sports, it's hard to find a competition. Like I was just mentioning a client of mine, he had a bodybuilding competition set for like I think a month and a half or 2 months from now, just canceled. Right. So it's necessary to try to set up like these mini training goals that, you'll probably enjoy. so that like you'll have something to look forward to when it comes to training. It could be as simple as a bodybuilder as like, okay, well, I think my best on dumbbell bench press was 70 for 10. So in these next 4 or 5 months, let me see if I can increase that to, 80 pounds for 10 reps, right? Or doing more on the dumbbell bicep curl over time, doing more volume on that. Because like if you're able to do that, your biceps probably going to get bigger and it's probably going to feel great.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's probably why some of the bodybuilders that we've had on this show have said like they'll switch to like powerlifting when in their off season, right? It's just to kind of go for a different goal. And I'm like, oh, that's what you guys were doing this whole time.
Yeah.
I thought you were just trying to get strong, but no.
Yeah, now they have a goal to handle more weight in like a deadlift or something. And then by handling more weight in the deadlift, you can observe that most likely they'll be able to do more weight with a bent over row. By being able to bench press more, maybe they'll be able to hit their shoulders a little harder. By doing some of these movements, by squatting more weight, maybe the leg press becomes a little easier, or maybe they just conditioned their legs to handle more work in a condensed time period. I think it was a couple years back, we had John Cena in the gym, and he was working on some deadlifts, and he ended up getting a PR, which happens a lot at Super Training Gym. I gave him a little bit of advice on something I was seeing from his deadlift, and that helped quite a bit. Obviously, he knows how to deadlift, but kind of working together, he ended up hitting a nice PR for the day. I think he deadlifted like 675 for the day. And he's a beast. And this is a guy that's traveling the country, traveling the world, really, with WWE at the time, on the road for 280 or 290 days out of the year or something wild. And he's still able to hit these big weights in the gym. I just remember seeing him do that. And he was pretty pumped. I mean, he didn't run around the gym and like go crazy and celebrate, but he was really happy about it. He was really excited about getting that PR. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, why the fuck can't I be happy like that? Like with just hitting a PR in the gym. Like I would never be that pumped about a PR in the gym, because I was like, it's just a gym PR, because at that time I was still competing, and I was just like, well, the gym thing doesn't mean anything. But when I saw that, I was like, no, I should celebrate. Like, I have to throw a party, but I should celebrate. I should be excited when I have a PR, and I should be pumped about it. There doesn't have to be a competition for it.
Yeah.
We've talked yesterday a lot about like being even keel. What about just having a similar amount of excitement for whether you hit a PR in the gym or whether you did it in competition? Let's not make too big of a deal about the competition. I mean, unless you won like a world championship or something, that's pretty cool. But other than that, try to stay as even as you can, so that you don't experience these crazy highs and lows. Because after a lot of competitions for powerlifters, for bodybuilders, we have post-competition. Well, for everybody, I guess, for all competitions, kind of have post-competition blues.
Yeah.
You feel like weird, you feel funky, and then you go back to the gym the next day or a day or two later, and people are like, "What are you doing next, man?" And you're like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not really. Are you going to compete again?" You're like, "I don't know," because it was treacherous, right? You put yourself through so much.
Yeah.
You put so much on that day. You told everybody about that day. Maybe even some people came to support you on that day. It's like it's a whole thing, right? It's a whole big thing. And we put so much on it, but why not take a lot of pride and be excited about some of the PRs you hit in the gym? The other thing that I saw John Cena do, and this probably extends out to some CrossFitters and maybe even some bodybuilders, but it's kind of cool when you have a lot of different things to get PRs on. I guess Westside Barbell Program is that way as well. But John does clean and jerks. He does snatches. He does overhead pressing. He does all kinds of stuff. So that gives you an opportunity to excel and to kind of compete against yourself often with a lot of different movements, and gives you a lot of different options in case you get hurt. I remember a while back, he probably 2-3 years ago, he tore his pec. Well, with a torn pec, you're not going to be able to make advancements on your bench press. But maybe that's a time where once the pec heals up a little bit, maybe that's a time where he can work on his mobility so he can be better at his cleans and his snatches. He loves to do Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
The same thing with some CrossFitters. I mean, they have so many options with the different lifts they could do. If something's banged up, something's injured, something's just not feeling right, something's just not going well, their deadlifts aren't going well, and maybe they can practice their overhead squats or rope climb. How different is a rope climb from doing a deadlift? How different is a rope climb from doing a bench press? I mean, they're not they're very, very different. You know, the guy that benches 700 pounds is going to have, you know, the odds of him being able to rope climb at all are probably zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a nice wide array of things that you can go and do, now you can go and still feel really good about what you do. We talked a little bit yesterday about being like proud of yourself. You could have this injury that sucks, that's really, you know, pulling at you and making you kind of feel sad, depressed that you can't do certain things, but you can still do a lot of these other things and you can go in there and feel good about it.
We had Chris Duffin on Mark Bell's Super Friends series on markbell.com. If you guys missed out, you missed a really good one. But in the intro, you had said that, you know, he's squatted 1,000 pounds for a double in the gym. And you were like, that's really freaking hard because it's not a competition. It's not anything where, you know, like you just said, you have all these people that are there surrounding you. It's just in the gym. And when you said that, I'm like, wait, no, I thought in the gym was supposed to be easier. But what you were saying, it was like, no, it's actually way harder, right? Like, can you explain what you meant?
Yeah, I think so. So just kind of what we're talking about here today, like that alignment to the competition. Chris kind of treated it like a competition because he had a film crew there, and he had some friends there to support him, and he would go on podcasts and stuff and talk about this day, and so he made it like an event. And so it
cool.
kind of ended up being, you know, a little bit like a competition, just minus the officials, I guess you'd say. But it's hard to have everything in alignment. It's hard to pretend that anything's a competition unless it's actually a competition. You know, because I don't know, it's hard. It's hard to like fake. It's hard to mimic. You know, you could say, oh, we're gonna, you know, set this up this way, and if it's not really an actual competition, then in my opinion, it'll be a little harder. There are the nerves of competing. But not when you're Chris Duffin and you've competed as many times as he has. Like he's over it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big aspect of all of this is just being okay enough to find a weakness and really work on it. Because when we were talking, we were mentioning like, okay, yeah, you got to learn how to enjoy your training, right? And most people, they really enjoy training when they're doing something that they're really good at. So, you know, I'm great at deadlifting, so I can't wait for deadlift day. Or like, you know, my arms are pretty nice, so I can't wait to train arms on arm day. But when it comes to, you know, leg day, I hate training my quads, right? Because you have weakness in your quads. So you don't really look forward to it that much. But, you know, if you really want to get better, that should be the day you look most forward to. You should look for certain things that you're really weak at. Maybe you suck with lunges. Maybe your squat's not that great. So maybe you're doing a bunch of stuff for that and having goals for, you know, your Bulgarian split squats, goals for your lunges, goals for your front squat. Maybe you have those goals so that you can actually improve at that because they're your weaknesses. And that'll allow you, and that'll give you, first off, you have a lot of room to grow there because it's a weakness. But it's just like this consistent goal of something that you're continually getting better at. So I think that's a huge aspect of it. Like during quarantine, I found that my shoulders were kind of, you know, with like jiu-jitsu, like I had some like shoulder weakness. So I was like, okay, a lot of the kettlebell work I did really helped with my shoulder stability. And that was one reason why
shoulders look really weak, bro.
Well, shoulder stability. I'll say shoulder stability. I felt that
Nsima looks like he's permanently wearing football pads underneath all his shirts all the time.
I needed a lot of work there.
Cap shoulders, bro.
Capped.
But the kettlebell work helped. Like it helped the stability in my shoulders, which translated onto the mat, right? So doing that, and it was outside of powerlifting and bodybuilding, but that kettlebell work helped with my exercise on the mats.
Well, and then once you make a little bit of progress, it's encouraging. You're like, oh, that was a little bit better, you know. And if you get a pat on the back from somebody else who says, hey, your shoulders look great, or you make progress in those ways too, that helps a lot too, especially when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to diet. You lose 10 pounds, and as soon as somebody recognizes it, that's when it's like, all right, everybody look out, because this person's probably going to go on a tear and make some great progress because now they got some momentum. And they feel amazing about what it is that they're doing. What you just said right there, I think, you know, exposing, you know, where you're weak, and then working on the weakness. It's a tough thing because you're not great at that, so you like don't want to do it. But there's gonna be times in your fitness. There's gonna be times in your life where you're going to have a break from the main thing that you're great at, or the main thing that you're great at just kind of wears itself out, or uh, you reached a point where you're limited by your weakness. You know, your weakness is like in the way. Could be flexibility, and you could be trying to be a great bodybuilder. Like, it actually takes more flexibility than you might think to do some of those poses and to do some of the stuff that they do, and also to have a good routine and to show off your muscle mass the way that you want to. You could have this glaring weakness. Why not, you know, if you have some sort of setback, you're just not where you want to be, whatever it might be, that could be the opportunity. It can be a great opportunity to look at it a little bit differently and say, you know what, I have so much other stuff to work on. I know I love training my biceps, but I need to work more on my waistline or whatever it is. And you work on that, you hone in on that. It's a difficult thing to do because you're like, you don't want to do it. It's something that you're not good at. But once you start to do it, once you start to make just a little bit of progress, which might take a couple of weeks, but it'll probably happen pretty quickly. Once you start making a little bit of progress, you're really kind of on your way from there.
Yeah, you literally took, well, not the exact same words out of my mouth, but that's what I was going to say. You know, like everybody knows I've had these back issues and stuff, but it is a daunting thing to look at. Just be like, man, like I have so much to do, and who's going to be excited to like stretch or do, you know, Stuart McGill's Big 3 every day? Like it's not fun. But I'm experiencing a tiny bit less back pain. You know, I talked to you guys about like how to sneeze, like how I was like fired up because I learned how to sneeze. And it's like, okay.
Can you tell the people real quick?
It's just, yeah, real quick. So just, in the book, he explains, instead of like sneezing down, especially if you have low back pain, you know, you're sneezing down and you're causing more compression down on your back, and you're using your body to absorb that. Like sometimes I sneeze and I'm like, I think that's the last one. Like, you know, like that's it. Like I'm broken, right? So some of these sneezes can be very vicious.
Yeah.
So instead of absorbing all that to sneeze like upwards, like you're kind of shooting it out of your body almost. Now that can be problematic if you have like bad allergies. Yeah, if you have bad allergies and you know you're shooting stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
But little things like that where I'm like, oh, like all right, let's keep going, you know. But it exactly, Mark. Like it's freaking hard to get going though. Like to be excited about those small little goals. And just real quick, I love that we're preaching to the choir, because like everybody in the chat room right now is just like, no, yeah, like I stay on my training in the off season, or I do this and that. So like everyone here is like already well on their way, but like, you know, I'm sure some of you know somebody who may or may not be. So maybe that's something you can, you know, share, or this is a podcast that you guys can share with them, or just kind of cement your thoughts already. You know, like I'm just pumped because I'm seeing everybody talking about their off-season strategies, and it's like lining up with everything you guys are talking about.
I think it's a good idea to just like I have a lot of people that will ask me questions about you know, what can I do if I got sick? What can I do if I got hurt? And I always just tell them, focus on, I usually say 5 things, but 3 things is usually kind of more than enough. You know, 5 things is kind of a lot of work. But if you were to if somebody came to me and said, oh man, I tweaked my knee, I still want to do this, you know, I still want to compete or whatever, and they decide they're not going to compete or whatever the situation is, I would say, well, let's just focus on what you can do, and what you're not able to do at the moment, let's just forget about it. Like there's no reason to even talk about it, no reason to even think about it. Let's get you heading in a good direction. Okay, you can't squat because your knee is bothering you. Can you do a leg press? Can you do a belt squat? Like what items do you have in your gym? What are some things that you can do? Like sometimes people can deadlift even when they have a hurt knee. So, hey, let's shift. You've been working on your squat really hard, and that's great. Well, let's maybe work on some deadlifts for a while, or maybe you can do stiff leg deadlifts. Maybe you can focus in on the hamstrings rather than focusing in on the quads. I want people to really work hard on, like, you know, troubleshooting. You know, what is never mind competition. Like you don't really need competition to point out your flaws, you know, to know like where you're weak, you know. And if you wanted to just in a really, really simple terms, just take like 3 things that would work you towards your goal. And it doesn't matter if there's a competition or not, but like, even if there's a competition for bodybuilding, let's say, I'm sure you want to be leaner anyway. just in general, you could probably afford to be a little leaner. Almost everybody. There's a few exceptions, right? Everybody probably wants to be a little stronger. So let's say that you want to be, in better shape. Let's say that you're pretty heavy, and you don't have any thoughts of even competing in bodybuilding necessarily, but you just want to be in better shape. What are 3 things that you can do that are going to be things that you will do? You know, and I just wrote down a couple really easy things, but you could expand on this list. You could add some variation to the list, but usually 2 or 3 things is enough. If you wanted to lose weight, fast. Utilize some intermittent fasting. Doesn't have to be a lot. You can start out with 12 hours a day for a while and see how that works. You can shift into doing 16 hours every other day. That should be sufficient. That should be enough. If you wanted to do more, you could, but I don't think you need any more to make a lot of progress. Next thing is eat protein. Eat protein that's the size of your hand, or at least the size of your hand or the size of your fist in every meal. And if you're still hungry, eat more protein that's the size of your other hand as well. Double up on it if you need to. Try to have lean sources of protein. And the third thing is have a protein shake every day. And if we want to throw in number 4, go on a walk. Aside from that, you can kind of eat whatever you want, but within reason. You know, you can't eat like an asshole. You can't just eat whatever. You can't like just go but you can have a normal diet. You can eat fruit, you can eat carbs, you can eat rice, you can eat potatoes, you can have a burrito. You can do all those things if you're able to actually do some of these rules here. If you're able to actually eat the protein that you're supposed to eat, if you're able to actually fast. I think a lot of times we have a tendency to focus in on like all the roadblocks. And I think the difference is when you have a competition, you cut out a lot of those roadblocks. Because you're like, I don't really care. You're like, I don't really care what I sacrifice at the moment, because it's only for a moment. It's only for a short period of time. I don't mind if my work suffers a little bit. I don't mind if my relationship suffers a little bit. I want to go after this with everything I got. And you just know that it's for a condensed period of time. So you're like, I'm good. And I'll tell other people around me, I'm going to be a dick for a little while. I'm going to be selfish and self-centered, but I'm going after this goal.
Yeah. To kind of add on to that, I'm going to go on one thing that you mentioned, because you mentioned a lot of people ask you questions. And I think for some people that can be a very strong thing, because, for example, a bodybuilder or a figure athlete, they might be like, I'm trying to make improvements, but I really don't know where. So maybe you know somebody who's a judge and they can say, hey, okay, you need to work on your shoulders this off season. You need to work on your butt this off season. Like, those need to be your focuses. Now you know the weaknesses that you need to focus on, because as an individual, it might be really hard to see your weaknesses. Yeah. I know that myself. Like, there's this guy I roll with at Jiu-Jitsu. He's a black belt. His name is John. We always have great rolls, right? So the other day, I think it was a few weeks ago, I'm like, dude, okay, I want to know from your perspective, me rolling with you and you seeing me roll, what is a big aspect of my game that you think I should work on, that you think I should really try to get better at? He told me pressure passing. So for the past months, I've been watching a bunch of videos on pressure passing, and every single roll, I try to just work on my pressure passing. And it's literally been the thing that has improved all of my rolls these past few months.
That's where you basically hurt the fuck out of people with your knees and elbows and stuff, and make them squirm so you can get in better position, kind of.
Yeah. So when you're
right?
Exactly. So when you're passing somebody's guard.
I hated that part of jiu-jitsu. I hated that part just because like the guy. Before I ever actually did jiu-jitsu, like before I was ever taught by like a real instructor, I used to just roll with this guy before I had wrestling practice, and he would just kill me all the time. And he trained with like Mark Coleman or something, and the guy looked like Mark Coleman. Like, this guy was jacked as fuck, and he would just kill me. Yeah. But he would do shit like that to me where I'm like, I just never dealt with anything like that. He got his knee like in my like ribs. I'm like, whoa, and then he catch me in like whatever he wanted. Yeah. Any sort of strength that I had was rendered completely useless.
Cassio's amazing at that. He's like 175, 180 pounds, but like when he's passing, he does the thing that I was doing.
You said he feels really strong.
He feels heavy.
Yeah.
He feels like 200 and something pounds. And it's because like when I was passing people's guards, I'm fast. So I could do things very quickly and get past their guard really quick. But John was like, well, when you're rolling with me, I can slow you down. And when you pass, you can't use that. So you need to use your weight and just put all your pressure on me and slowly.
It could help you conserve energy.
It'll help me conserve energy, but it'll also help weigh down my opponent. Because when Cassio's passing, he just feels like this slow rock that's
Right.
slowly coming up your body, and you can't do anything about it, right? So that's helped me massively. And I remember also when I was really trying to improve, like on my bench, my deadlift here, I'd ask you questions. I'd ask Marcus questions, and like you guys would be like, you should do this, you should do this, and
Right.
those then I didn't know, right? But you guys told that to me. I'm like, huh, okay, yeah, I should focus on that. And once I did focus on that, boom, started making progression. So if you have people in your life that like you can ask those questions to, and on the outside looking in, that can give you some advice, ask them what you can do,
Right.
because that could be the thing.
They're going to be able to give you answers, and they might not know the exact answer, but you can work on that thing and you can see how it works for yourself. You know, the guy that we have coming in today is the king of that, Kelly Starrett. He says, like, test, retest. You know, you try a stretch and then do a movement. Does it feel like anything improved? If it doesn't feel like anything improved, maybe you have to still work on opening up or releasing that muscle. You know, you're working on your hip flexor. You do a stretch for it for 2 minutes. You do the other side for 2 minutes. Then you go to move into a lunge and you're like, it's still like something's pulling there. You could have an injury that maybe just won't go away, but he wants you to kind of test and retest. And I think testing your strength and testing where you're at, I think is also good. There's just so many different ways of doing this to get excited about your training that you don't necessarily always have to have a competition there. And one of the reasons why we brought this topic up today is because we see a lot of people compete in figure competitions and bodybuilding competitions and powerlifting and jiu-jitsu, and they reach this heightened state and you're like, man, that is so cool. That is awesome. Shit, man, that's crazy. You ran a marathon. But where are they in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years? That's really the concern. You know, it's immediately afterwards, after a bodybuilding show, you're going to gain a bunch of weight. I mean, it's inevitable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe just instead of like getting fat, maybe that's a purposeful like bulk. You know, maybe it's an intentional thing. And I would say that anyone that's going to compete in bodybuilding or figure or any of that kind of stuff, I would say come up with a plan. Because if you just go and eat whatever after the show, you're gonna really blow up. And just like Nsima said, talk to someone who's done it before. You know, why not get advice from somebody that's competed before? They're gonna know. They're gonna be able to give you some great advice. But have an intent, have a purpose into whatever it is you're gonna do next. And the competition thing, you know, having an actual meet or something like that is great. And I encourage everyone to do it anytime they have a chance to do it. But I'd also say just having an intent to your training. Like, what are you trying to do? Sometimes what you're trying to do doesn't even have much to do with the end result that you're trying to get. Somebody could say, I'm really working on my pull-ups a lot. And you could say, okay, what's the reason you're working on your pull-ups? You want to be really good at pull-ups, or do you want to have a big back? Because not everyone that has a big back can do a lot of pull-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So the working on pull-ups can definitely help. It can definitely assist. It's a great movement. But if you're thinking that's the only way that you're going to get a big back, you might be making a mistake, and you could be maybe focusing in on some other movements as well as you work on getting better at those pull-ups.
Because directly to that statement right there, though, if you have a big back and you can do a lot of pull-ups, oh fuck,
Yeah, right.
that's a double whammy.
Yeah, well, now you can add weight to it. Now you just have more options. You're always better off, with more options than you are with less options.
Absolutely.
You get somebody that can do like 4 or 5 exercises, and they start to lose a lot of their movement and stuff like that. You're going to start to see somebody that's probably not conditioned really well, that has a hard time doing a lot of other movements. They might look big, but they're probably not moving well, and it's probably not anyone you aspire to really be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we probably aspire to be somebody that's jacked, that could at least move halfway decent, that is still, you know, capable of tying their own shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
No, I was just gonna say,
Wiping their butt standing up.
does this guy look like he has shoulder issues?
you took that picture.
That's one of my favorite pictures.
It's because of the angle.
Yeah.
That's pure angle.
He
That's
looks
awesome.
So fucking freaky right there.
But what I was gonna say was like all the things that we're mentioning right now in terms of like, you know, getting these goals outside of competition. Before the podcast, you were mentioning like when you get older and you're not competing, some things have like masters competitions and whatever, but like when that's like not the real focus anymore, trying to compete at that high level, this is going to prepare you to just be able to enjoy all these different aspects of training. Because the funny thing is, like, you'll see like retired basketball players, retired football players, or just retired athletes in general, when they're done with competing and they've done all that in terms of competing, a lot of them just get kind of fat. Like a lot of them get really out of shape, and they don't look like they're doing too well, because it's like maybe they didn't do all of that when they were training when they were younger. Maybe they didn't have these skills to just, you know, get better at all these little things, and they didn't enjoy it that much. I feel like if you're able to do that, when you get older, you're still going to be able to be in great shape, because now the focus isn't always competition. The focus is just, what little thing can I maybe get better now? Like the guy you're mentioning that's 50 years old, if you want to talk about him, like,
yeah. I just think, like, as you get older, you know, start getting into your 40s, 50s, and even 60s, and even later, the main thing is just not to regress, you know, just not to go backwards. And there's a lot of the steps that a lot of people that listen to the show are already taking are all things that are going to really help with that. So even if you are a person that is on the heavier side, if you're starting to take some of these actions and you're starting to lift and you're starting to walk and you're starting to pay more attention to your nutrition, yeah, maybe you're not losing 60 pounds like you wanted to, but what if you kind of stay about similar, and then over a period of time, you lose a little bit of weight over the course of several years, you're going to look a lot better than a lot of the other 40 and 50 and 60-year-old people that are around, because most of those people don't take care of themselves at all. And not only do they not take care of themselves, they do a lot of things that are negative to their body. And they might not have hit them yet because they might be 30, they might be 35. But when they're 55, it's going to show up. You're going to start to really see that. And you're going to be like, oh, shit, like, how old is that guy? You're going to start to fall apart. So, staying connected to your fitness is huge. My wife goes swimming every morning, and the crew that she goes swimming with, I would say probably, I guess I'd have to really ask her, but at least from what I know, I think maybe only like 20% of those people compete. They all swim every morning. You know, they swim at like 6 a.m. They're jumping in the water. It's fucking freezing outside.
Yeah, fuck that.
It's 36 degrees outside, you know, and they're going outside. But I mean, they do, the water is not cold, you know, obviously the water it's heated or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, these are people that are getting after it every single day. And there's people that are 70, there's people that are 80. And there's people that show up even at an earlier time than that. So just a really small percentage of those people compete. But there they are, getting in their swimsuit, getting their swim cap on, having the dedication to get wet first thing in the morning, like fucking go dive in a pool. Like it sounds like insanity, especially like to go drive to it and then to get out of your car and to be in the cold and then get in the water. Like it sounds rough.
And then walking out of the water afterwards in that cold. Nope. That's what I'm thinking.
Me too. I'm like, hey, the water's going to splash, and like the concrete's not like heated, right? Like, I mean, I guess some places can be, but
yeah, you're gonna be cold as fuck doing that.
Oh man.
But those people don't have any trouble, doing what they love to do every day. And it's actually kind of rare for I guess maybe a small subset. Yeah, only a small subset of those people even like make a lot of progress, but they're happy to do what they've been doing for a long time. And it might sound ridiculous to do that, but I would speculate that you can do the same amount of weight on a lat pull down and the same amount of weight on a dumbbell bench press and the same amount of weight in a squat and still look better and become stronger by using the same exact weight for like 20 years. I know it sounds weird, but you'll get better at moving those weights. You'll get better at controlling those weights. So here we are, like we're in this dogfight every day. Like you got to get better. You know, I need to handle the 150-pound dumbbells. It's like, well, you don't really need to handle the 150-pound dumbbells. What if you handled the 80-pound dumbbells the right way? That would be that might be a good start. You know, lower them for 4 seconds, get a little pause in there, and every time you go to press, you actually are contracting your chest. It just depends on the goals. If the goals are to get stronger, yes, we might need to push the envelope with a little bit heavier weight. If the goal is to look better, we probably don't really need to mess around with that too much, although it would be wise to do that occasionally, because getting stronger can help lead to hypertrophy and can help lead to bigger muscles because you'll be able to handle more weight over a period of time. But on the lat pull down that we have out there, I've been just doing 130 or 140 pounds for 10 years probably, you know? And I actually, the other day, I reduced it down to like 80 and I just went super slow and was contracting it. And my lats were fried. My lats are still sore from the other day. So I think it's deceiving. You think that you always need more and you don't always need more. You just sometimes need to do it better.
That's the funny thing. Cause like, yeah, when you pay attention to a lot of like bodybuilders who've been doing it for a long time, like, here we go again, Mike O'Hearn. We look at some of the loads that he uses on some of these movements. When you actually, if you train with him or if you see him train, you're like, oh, that's not too heavy. But when you look at the way he's moving it, when you look at the tempo, when you look at all these little
no facial expression at all,
no facial expression,
no noise,
all these weird pauses, like there are a lot of different ways to improve at these things and to get much better at them without stacking on or adding 40 pounds, right? And that's a way to get better at it for a long amount of time and to enjoy different levels of difficulty. I think it's
Kai
great.
Green trains pretty light. I mean, relative to how big he is. I mean, I know he can handle a ton of weight, but he's using like 30-pound dumbbells on curls and stuff like that. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Again, it's like, it's great to be an athlete that competes, and you should, like, if you're doing that, you should have that focus on competition. But when you get older, outside of that, you got to figure out ways to continue to increase your love for the sport or the love for the training, because that's the thing that you're going to have until you're old and
Grizzled.
Old and frizzled, exactly. When you're 70 years old, ideally, hopefully, you're still going to enjoy going into the gym and hitting up squatting session. Squatting 225 at 70 is impressive as hell, right? You want to be that person that's able to do that. I know I want to be able to squat like 315 at 70.
Yeah.
That'd be
Like
sick.
for a rep, that'd be awesome.
That's something I said, I think, when I was like 18. I was
Yeah.
like, I want to still be able to move some of these weights around when I'm like 70, you know? And here we are, I'm 70.
Yeah, in regards to like what you're saying about Michael Hearn, if we had like Gold's Gym footage,
Is his last name O'Tren or Hearn?
Trembolol.
O'Tren, yeah.
Wow. Speaking of things that you can't pronounce correctly. Like,
Trembolol.
I was like, huh? But if we went back like 20, 30 years ago, he was doing that also.
He was still extremely strong.
Exactly, right? So, yeah, that
Yeah, he's
consistency and loving the process.
Yeah, well, he's probably still lifting like similar weights, you know, to my point earlier. And then the different weights that different people are able to do, I don't know how relative they are. I mean, Mike is big, but again, like looking at some other athletes, like they don't handle the same amount of weight and they can get just as big and sometimes even bigger. So I think a lot of this stuff is, it's just stuff that we think. Like even when it comes to protein, I love talking about protein because I do think it can help drive down your hunger. And I say that you need X, but you don't need that amount of protein. You don't really need that amount of protein. It's just, you have to eat something. And I would guess that you can probably get away with eating half your body weight in grams of protein and be totally supplied with the amino acids that your body needs. When I'm in downtown Davis every morning, I see a lot of homeless people. I actually talk to them quite a bit and buy them cups of coffee and stuff like that here and there. But when I see them, like they're not atrophying, they're not any smaller, and I'm sure that it's hard for them to get their protein requirements. They're not eating like chicken breast a couple times a day. They don't have whey protein shakes sitting around. So a lot of these things that we think are really true, like we need these massive amounts of weight to be big. We need these massive amounts of protein to be able to hold on to any muscle mass. We're gonna lose it all. Like if we fast or if we, you know, and you've done like 1 meal a day type things for a while, and I've never saw you come in here looking frail or being like, oh shit, man, you better up your protein, bro. Like I don't think you're getting your requirements. Again, one of the reasons we recommend it is because you have to eat something, and it can help manage your hunger. It can also help manage the overall amount of food that you eat in a day. But for the most part, we all just eat way too much. And when I say all, I would include myself in that bunch.
Yes, absolutely. No, that's one of the big things. It makes a very, very big difference. If more people could just build the habit of just getting more protein in each day, being fit would be so much easier. It would be so much easier.
Yeah, I have to film it, but for the newsletter, the Power Project newsletter, I'm actually going to film just multiple ways that I sneak more protein in my diet every day.
Oh,
just small little things, nothing crazy.
through
And
the
then,
bum hole?
No, not like into the
Sneak it in?
body.
Oh,
No,
okay.
like literally like in my foods, like adding more protein to that said
I
food.
thought you were talking about like a protein enema or something.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking because it works
Shooting
really
it-
well.
Shooting it right in the ass.
Yeah, I
That
used
has
to
to
do
work,
that, like
right?
especially when I was trying to get in 400 grams a day. Like I couldn't always eat it all, so
Sit
I just,
on it.
Yeah, just,
Oh.
get it in there.
Slide
Ew.
it in.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why BCAAs don't really work very well because we're not putting it in the right side.
Mm.
Like it's got to get into the bloodstream.
It's,
how do you think I got so big?
reverse
Steroid.
peristalsis?
Reverse what?
Peristalsis.
Peristalsis.
Peristalsis is the
Peristalsis.
process from like I think the time the food hits your like mouth to the time that it goes through the whole digestive system. So this would be, going through the butt would
Got
be
it.
the reverse. We're gonna have it go through the butt and come out the mouth.
Knocking on the back door.
How do we always get here?
I think I did it. Today.
Yeah, this was your fault.
Nah, this one was me. This one was my fault.
Next show we'll talk about how you can shave your butt crack safely.
I've never done that.
It seems like it could be dangerous.
Have you done it?
Right.
Not
You have?
I have,
What process?
but
do you
no,
use?
not like with a razor.
Oh, like with that.
Just like a little trimmer.
oh,
like
just
a manscape
yeah.
type thing.
Yeah.
I would.
I haven't been brave enough to get a razor in there.
Hell no.
I don't even really
no.
know if I could get a razor in these
Yeah.
cheeks either.
That's true. You'd have to have like a extended like arm
Mm-hmm.
to get in there.
That's risky. I had a college friend, Chris, who told me how he.
Why you gotta use his name?
that.
You rat him out.
He doesn't. No one knows his last name. Apologize.
That's great.
He told me about he shaved his ass with the razor, and he was telling me just how much it stung. He was like, "Bro, pooping is the worst right now."
Oh no.
Yeah, I was so.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. That one story is the one thing that's like.
Maybe
been-
we will have a show on this. It sounds
Yeah.
like
It's a bigger issue than we think.
Yeah,
Right?
that's been the thing that stopped me from wanting to ever do that. That's why I've never done it before.
he had problems shitting. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Maybe that'll be our next poll. Like on the pot on the like, have you ever shaved your?
Taint.
Yeah, that's one
Uh-oh.
that men and women can chime in on.
The one we have up today right now, I just hopefully you guys find it as comical as I do, but it just says, can we make the results even at 25% each? And it's just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ah,
Yes.
I see. Okay.
So right now, 1 is 21%, 19%, 21%, and then somebody's like, people just want to see the world burn. Votes
Yeah.
number 4. So
See?
4 is 38%.
God dang it.
Let's even this shit out.
Why can't you guys
Please.
just cooperate?
You could do a poll 1 + 1 = 2. Yes or no?
Just see what happens.
You're gonna get a.
Yeah.
How do you know the results of that?
Yeah. I've seen, I think it's like Lex Friedman or Friedman.
Yeah, Friedman.
Lex Friedman has put that up before, and there's like, I don't know why. I don't know what his thing is. I never like looked into like why it's a thing, but
Yeah, I don't
he just
know.
got all these crazy responses.
Yeah.
It's like 1 + 1 = 2, and people are like losing their minds.
What the fuck?
But
People
since
are silly.
Lex's podcast is like this math podcast, you probably have a lot of like
Oh, yeah.
theorists who are
yeah.
like,
Fuck
it's
off.
not 2 because.
Yeah, right.
Fuck that.
It gets to be crazy. I love his podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to get down and listen to some intellectual ass shit needs to go over there and check it out.
Yeah.
Blow your mind. It's a lot to think about. You're like, you can only listen to a couple minutes of it at a time because it keeps like blowing your head off your shoulders. You're like,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I need a
ma-
break.
like,
Yeah.
maybe you need like someone else, like go from here to like Joe Rogan to maybe that one, because if you go straight from here, you might like. you
yeah,
might
this
not
is
be
like
able to get
watching
through.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yes.
We try to keep it as mindless as possible over here.
And proud of it.
Oh man, what was the name of that one guy? Who he's got like the.
Oh, he has a mustache?
No,
like
he's got
that?
the he's got like
Handlebar?
little moles and stuff. But
Oh,
he's been on Rogan and Lex's podcast. He's really cool. He has a lot of cool stuff. But
I have no
I forgot
idea.
his name.
Not even
Ha!
close.
Damn it!
We're not good.
I forgot. Okay.
We're not good with
I'm
names.
terrible with names. I've said it before on the podcast. Like, people talk about like, oh, I had like first and last name in this class, with this teacher, like this period. I'm like, phew. I just know I went to school at one point in my life. I can't remember specifics.
What
like
episode are we on, by the way?
That. 480.
Oh,
Yeah, 480.
why didn't we do something special for 469?
Because I didn't think of it.
Because he's not for it.
We should
Yeah.
do something special every 69th episode of every 100. So like 569, 669,
Yeah,
769. I forgot Daryl Davis's name yesterday. I felt so ashamed about that.
it
I
happens.
love Daryl Davis.
He's awesome.
He's a
was
good dude to
great.
talk to.
Awesome musician as well.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
he
He's
is.
he's a badass. I was at my sister-in-law's house maybe like a week ago, and we're at like the dinner table, and my nephew, he goes to Jake. He goes, Jake. He's like, what's 69 mean?
Yes.
He's like, I keep hearing it. He's like, what does it mean? What does it mean? And Jake just kind of like looks at him. Jake goes, go ask your dad. And then Lachlan, it was Lachlan that asked the question. He just like looked at Jake and he's like, nope.
Oh my god.
I thought it was a great response from Jake though. I was like, that's hilarious, you know. But his dad would be like, what? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Someone did that to me in the 7th grade. And I feel like I was such a dumb 7th grader because I did go ask the geometry teacher, Miss McConaughey, I think was her name. But I didn't know what a cunt was.
Okay.
I was like,
you don't know.
I didn't even know it was
know.
a bad word.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't even know it was a bad word. And I asked,
Could be a good word.
I asked the student,
Depends on how you look at it.
yeah, yes, exactly. And he was like, "Oh, dude, I think Miss McConaughey knows. She was talking about that the other day." I was like, "Really?" I was
he
like,
set you
"All right,
up.
all right, let me go ask." I was like, "Miss McConaughey, what's a cunt?" And she's like, "Oh, Nsima." And I got in trouble for that. I was like, "What? Like what?" And then I found out what it was. I was like, "Shit, I didn't know." I don't think we had like I didn't have like internet access that great at that time, so I couldn't just
Nope.
type it into Google.
That's
So
awesome.
it was a little tough, but yeah.
Brutal.
That was stupid of me, man. Like that was so dumb. I should have
That's
realized.
great the way your friend worded it.
Yeah.
I would have fell for it. I'd have been like, oh yeah, I'll ask her. She seems really smart.
Oh man, that was funny.
Damn.
Yep.
He could have worded it even worse. He could have been like, oh yeah, she passed them out the other day. You can get one? Like, Miss McConnell, I missed
That's
when you passed out the
amazing.
cunt. Can you get me some of that?
Yeah. Oh, it was such a good setup. That's why I've never forgotten it because I was like, that was
Oh,
solid, man.
Damn, I like that guy.
Yeah, Trevor
I
Foreman.
was gonna say his name is Little Smokey.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Dang, but see, even you remembered his name. I
Yep.
can't remember people's names.
Some people you just don't forget, man.
That's true. Yeah.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
I will. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Everybody on the live stream, you guys are freaking great. We love you. Thank you so much. Huge shout out and thank you to Piedmontese Beef for sponsoring today's episode. Best beef on the planet. You guys already know, but if you guys haven't tried so, you need to head over to Piedmontese.com. That's PIEDMONTESE.com at checkout. Enter promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Highly recommend that you just get the Power Project Deluxe bundle. That way you can try out all of the different cuts that we like the most. Just caveat, the code doesn't work on that because it's already discounted as is. But once you do get that deluxe bundle, then you can go back and get your favorites and use that code that way. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project on Instagram, at MB Power Project on Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. And again, if you guys want some a little bit extra content, some exclusive content that you're not going to get anywhere else, check out the link for the Power Project newsletter down in the description or the podcast show notes. And Nsima, how can people get in touch with you?
Thanks for plugging the meat, Daddy. At Nsima Inyang on
Don't.
Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Inyang on
Jesus.
Twitter. Mark.
At Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.